From grabbing the fence to avoid the takedown to hitting his opponent in the groin when the referee isn't looking, Leon Edwards has defended his belt despite several illegal moves. Let's dive into what exactly happened. For that, there's no better place to start than the Ring of the Bell. As the main event of UFC 286 on the 19th of March 2023, Leon Edwards made the first defense of his welterweight championship.
Back in London, my people, it's going to be totally different, and I've never lost a fight in the UK, amateur or pro, and I'm bringing that confidence back into that fight, and it's going to be a very, very good night.
The spectacle took place in front of a sold-out crowd at London's O2 Stadium against the fighter's longtime rival, Kamaru Usman. The main event had spectators on the edge of their seats as highlight reel competitors squared off. Kamaru entered as the challenger for the first time in 6 bouts. That's good for 4.5 years, and he was definitely received like a challenger too. For Edwards, on the other hand, the crowd went wild for their local hero. The bell rings and the fighters went to work on each other. The first 2 rounds were as they usually are, with the fighters starting off by feeling each other out. Neither threw their big shots just yet. Edwards landed a solid counter, and Usman attempted to lock up. The crowd got excited by a big Edwards body shot and a good kick to the body from the Brit. It was a very tight round. Usman had a false start in the second round as he emerged just a little too quickly. Edwards kicked Usman low, causing a brief stoppage, though it didn't keep them too long. They both got into it, landing big punches and getting the crowd on their feet in the O2. Halfway through the round, Usman got him down, but Edwards recovered and went for a takedown of his own, which proved unwise. The round ended on its feet, leaving a wide-open fight in the balance. Now, the third round onwards is what got everyone buzzing about the fight. The fighters emerged back into the ring from their corners, ready for the bout, when suddenly, Usman attempted to get Edwards down with a takedown, and the hometown fighter grabbed the cage. This was an illegal move from Leon, upon which the crowd got to their feet and screamed in protest. Herb Dean took a point from the Brit and stood the fighters up. This proved to be a monumental moment as they both returned to their more tentative ways, only for Usman to then land another low blow. Usman appeared to be incredibly frustrated by this point, though Edwards attempted a big knee in retaliation. In the end, Usman had landed the bigger shots in the fight, and he may have managed to claw it back to all square with a 10-8. The fighter had been in action packed up until that point, and it was relatively even, but the point deduction could have changed the course of the fight entirely, though it wasn't enough. Usman seemed thrilled as he realized he had the opportunity to seize control of the fight, so he immediately engaged Edwards, going for takedowns and lunging for big punches. For a few moments, Usman dominated, but Edwards was able to weather the storm. The Brit was perhaps a little lucky not to have suffered further point reductions, given that he engaged in a number more illegal moves. At one stage, Edwards grabbed the inside of Usman's gloves during a clinch backed up against the cage. This left the Nigerian's corner, and his fans exclaimed in disgust, but the Brit was given a stern talking to by Dean, who was clearly not happy. On top of this, the British fighter then dished out a low blow which paused the fight. Not only this, he followed up with another illegal shot to the groin. Despite the Nigerian glance at the referee, who he hoped would punish his opponent for the move, the bout continued on. After a suspenseful fight, Edwards defeated Kamaru to keep his UFC welterweight championship.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 5 rounds, we go to the judges' scorecards for decision. For the winner, by majority decision, and still,
Rocky was given the win via a major decision, with 2 judges giving him scores of 48-46 and 1 giving him 47-47. Edwards ultimately prevailed in his trilogy fight against Usman, settling their beef once and for all. Now, for those of you who've been living under a rock all this time and have no idea what the beef between the two was, let me enlighten you with a bit of context. The first fight between Kamaru Usman and Leon Edwards occurred in Florida in 2015 during the preliminary rounds of Dos Anjos versus Cowboy 2. The Nigerian Nightmare triumphed in the fight by unanimous decision, which came as no surprise. Leon could only manage 26 significant strikes compared to Usman's 48 significant strikes, making it clear that Usman's striking was superior to this opponent's. But Edwards was troubled by more than just Usman's striking. The Nigerian was equally dominant on the mat, where he scored on 6 of his 13 tries at takedowns. Usman was able to gain control of the situation for 10 minutes and 50 seconds, as opposed to Edwards' 40 seconds thanks to this. Many anticipated Usman to use a similar approach in the lead-up to their rematch 7 years later if he was to effectively defend his UFC welterweight title, and they couldn't have been further off. Fast forward to the 20th of August 2022, Usman vs. Edwards 2 took place. As many fans anticipated Usman to perform similarly to his previous one-sided performance against Leon Edwards when they met again. But this time, Usman's UFC welterweight championship was on the line. Edwards, on the other hand, had other plans, and he defeated Usman for the first time in a UFC fight-in. For the Nigerian Nightmare, who proceeded to dominate the following 3 rounds with his better takedown game, this seemed like a minor slip-up. This trend continued in round 5. Edwards' chances of winning were rapidly dwindling, so he had to do something extraordinary to win the championship, which is exactly what the British MMA star did. Usman was drawn in by Edwards' right-hand feint, and in the closing seconds of the fight, the defending champion was knocked out cold by Edwards' vicious left head kick. So I think it's pretty clear from this that the most recent fight had a lot riding on it, and a certain attendee certainly felt the same way. Even though the main event featured plenty of action, one spectator made sure to make it his own news. Colby Covington was in attendance and ready to step in as a replacement should Edwards or Usman be unable to participate for any reason. Everyone knows Chaos as one of the best welterweights in the game, and this fight was huge for his future. The American reportedly witnessed the entire fight while on his feet and spoke candidly in a backstage interview following it. Along with calling out Edwards and Khamzat Chimaev, Covington also hinted at a possible super fight with none other than Conor McGregor. The biggest fight the UFC has ever planned, according to Covington. If Conor wants to fight one day and do business, I'm here, exclaimed the fighter. Well, I don't know about that, but what I do know is that there's nothing but up for Rocky from here onwards. Doubt him no more. Edwards' ascent to the top has not been simple, but diligence has paid off. Usman, who's soon going to turn 36, was never quite able to provide any memorable moments.
You know, I'm one of those guys, I can't sit for too long. I started getting antsy. So I'm going to talk to my coaches, we'll get back, sit and relax, spend some time with my daughter,
But that's only because Edwards virtually always closed the door while demonstrating how much of a gamer he really is. 7 months after defeating Kamaru Usman by 5th-round knockout to seize the 170-pound championship, he doubled down in their rematch at UFC 286 by winning by majority decision. Edwards is anticipated to compete against Colby Covington, a previous 2-time title challenger, for his 2nd title defense. That's all for Leon Edwards defending his belt despite 4 illegal moves.